Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Riverfront. This is episode number 430. My goodness, time marches on, whether you like it or not. Episode number 430 of the world's most dangerous podcast. I'm your host, Chad Dotson. With me again this week, your friend, but maybe not mine, Nate Dotson. How are you, Nate?
Chadwick, Sean, I am great. Missed y'all last week. Had some things going on. I kind of wish I would have been here because it seems like you and Wick get together. Usually it's a great time for everybody. This time you talk about how fun the team is, how much you're enjoying it.
And then they fall off the cliff.
There might have been a little baby jinx there.
Right, yeah. No, I had a good time with Wick Terrell, obviously from redreporter.com. Wick Terrell, always fun to catch up with him, and he always has a unique take on the Reds. And, you know, we were finding some things, and we weren't claiming that the Reds were good by any stretch of the imagination, but we were talking about how they were in some ways kind of sneaky fun to follow. And I still stand by everything I say. It takes more than 1 week for me to completely reverse my opinion on things, but this has been a rough week for the old Cincinnati Reds. The Reds, of course, winless since the last podcast. They've lost 7 in a row. They've lost 11 of the last 14. They just had a homestand, a 6-game homestand against Milwaukee and the Dodgers, in which they won precisely 0 games, and frankly, were not in the mix in very many of those games. The Reds are now, as we record, 23 games under 500. They are 15 and a half games out of first place, 15 and a half games out of the wild card spot. And although they're only 2.5 behind the Chicago Cubs for 4th place, but if you'd have told me at this point in the season the Reds would already be 6 games behind the Pirates, then, this is where we'd been. The Reds have lost twice as many games as they've won. Nate, I don't know. You tell me. This has been a rough week. Just when the Reds were starting to, I don't know, they were getting kind of fun to watch. They were reasons for optimism over the last few weeks, but they were up and down, but they weren't as bad as they were early in the year. Now, all of a sudden, it's just they've fallen off a cliff. Just what do you think? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the reasons for optimism are the same as they were before. They just all colluded over the last 6 days to play poorly at the same time. The starting pitching has been pretty rough. There's a couple outings there by Castillo and Tyler Mahle that weren't terrible, but they weren't good either. The young arms have struggled the same way we've kind of said that they would off and on throughout the whole year. But we had a nice little stretch there. We had a nice May. We had some moments in the first half of June where we're thinking, all right, this club could actually be fun, play some entertaining baseball the rest of the way. But like you said, these last 6 weeks, our last 6 days, like, what is y'all doing? It has been kind of brutal to watch. And it's been a collectively bad effort. The starting pitching has been bad. The bullpen has been bad. The hitting has been bad. But it only gets better from here. So I'm excited for that.
There you go. They've hit rock bottom. No, again, we try really hard to figure out ways to laugh and to have fun. And we're still watching. We're hopeless. We're still watching. And if you all are still listening or either watching on YouTube or listening to a Cincinnati Reds podcast when they've lost twice as many games as they've won. And so we're all hopeless. And so we have to find ways to enjoy it. But this week has been as tough as any since the first week. There for a while, we were kind of able to fool ourselves. We didn't think that we were going to make the playoffs. No one of the most optimistic Reds fans, no names are going to be mentioned here, could have believed the Reds were ever going to make the playoffs after that start. But listen, if they're competitive in games, and that was kind of the crux of what Wick and I were talking about last week, if they're competitive in games and they've got some players that are fun to root for, then you know what? This is our lot in life. We're Reds fans, and so let's try to enjoy it. Man, the Dodgers, I'm going to go ahead and say this. After today's final game of the series against the Dodgers, where the Dodgers swept the season series against the Reds, I'm ready to make a declaration here on the show. The Los Angeles Dodgers are better at baseball than the Cincinnati Reds.
Really going out on the ledge there, but it's hard to disagree with. I mean,
watch this team, and I want to step out on a ledge.
It was like you said, that they weren't competitive these last 2 series outside of maybe one game. It kind of reminds you of the 3-22 stretch when they just weren't in a lot of those ball games. But I'm chalking it up to fluke. even the immortal Jeffrey Hoffman had a rough game yesterday for those listening to this. So if Jeffrey Hoffman's having bad games, there's just something in the water. They got sick or something. It was all fluke. No way that's legit.
Yeah. The legend Jeffrey Hoffman showed a little chink in his armor a little bit today. We should probably talk about Hunter Green because we just praise Hunter Green to the heavens every single podcast for good reason, and we're not going to change that now. But man, he just gave up 9 hits, 6 runs in 5 innings, and has now allowed 12 homers this season. Hunter Green has now allowed 12 home runs this season on pitches 97 miles an hour or faster. Already a single season record since they started tracking that sort of thing. So we're just the middle of June, and Hunter Green already breaking records. But there are going to be days like that, I guess. But yeah, it's just really. I'm going to admit that I did not watch the game today, and I am so glad in retrospect that I didn't. After I went back and watched highlights and read the recaps and looked at the box score, yikes. That bad Hunter Green again, but Mama said there'd be days like that. Don't give up on Hunter Green.
You can't spend half the season praising him for his composure and for how good he's looked at such a young age, and then be surprised when a lineup as ridiculous as the Los Angeles Dodgers this year goes and teaches the young guy a little bit about baseball. There's a difference
1 through 9, man.
Yeah, there's a difference between facing the Pirates in the middle of May and the Dodgers, this Dodger squad, any time of the year. I mean, they've just got all-stars up and down, and he learned that when you're having a bad day, it gets exacerbated when you're playing a team like that. And they're going to take advantage of. It seemed like every mistake all series, every bad pitch, seemed like it went for a hit.
Yeah, it's the best team in the league versus the worst team in the league. Although I will not sit here and listen to the slander of the 3rd place Pittsburgh Pirates. That's like a dream season for them so far. 3rd place. Boy, the Cubs are not good either. The Reds have a chance of catching the Cubs if they'll ever, win a game.
Listen, I think we need to celebrate like an open day parade if we catch the Cubs. I'm here for it. We got to have something to root for. Being ahead of the Cubs is always it.
Yeah, I got to be honest. If the Reds could finish ahead of the Cubs and Pirates, and they're not going to the playoffs, but those are within the realm of possibility. If they could finish ahead of the Cubs and Pirates, I don't care if they lose 105 games. So it's a win-win for me. So anything else from the series, the last couple of series, the Milwaukee and LA series that stuck out to you in particular, or I don't know. I don't know how much we want to talk about the fact that they just looked awful.
Nothing too much. Tommy Pham had a nice series against Milwaukee. Had a big game today. I love seeing him do well, just because if there's anything that can convince a team to trade him, that's something I'm going to root for.
Right. Get him out of town.
Otherwise, no, I don't have a lot that I want to dive into with these series, just because it wasn't. We try to keep it lighthearted. We try to have a good time here, and there wasn't a lot to have a good time about.
Yeah, we're going to move on to other topics so that we can enjoy it more, because there's not a lot to say. They were bad this week. It was as bad a week as they've had since that awful start to the season, and Phil Castellini wasn't even. He didn't show his face at the park, so we can't blame him this time around. Oh, we can blame him, and we will blame him. But
come on.
Let me just say this, and I joked about the Pirates earlier, but in this division, the National League Central, the Reds got swept by the Brewers this week. Obviously, that's the Milwaukee Brewers. Milwaukee.
Oh.
If some team has to win the National League Central, and it's not the Cincinnati Reds, I'm pretty much always going to be okay with it being the Milwaukee Brewers. How are they have they become one of the Reds' big rivals, obviously, but they're just not objectionable, really. Does that make any sense? I don't want to spend some time praising the Brewers, but they're the only team in this division that I just don't hate. And I don't know why that is. I do have a theory, but do you have any thoughts about that? Or do you just disagree with me totally? I know you're anti-Milwaukee.
I actually agree with you completely. One, it's where Baxter was hanging out in Anchorman 1, so you gotta love him for that. I actually said something similar in a series recap a few weeks back, not this last series, but the one before. A series recap is something that you could see and listen to if you are a member of our Patreon family, patreon.com/riverfrontcincy. Nothing to see here. since they got rid of Ryan Braun, I don't dislike a single player on their team.
I will also note that you just to give you some credit, I know you were manning the Riverfront Instagram account. By the way, we're at Instagram at Riverfront Cincy, and you had some comments about another former Brewer, old Bill Hall, who used to terrorize the Reds. And that's a deep cut. If you remember that, you really were around back in the day. But anyway, go ahead. I interrupted you.
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals' least favorite team in all of Major League Baseball. The Cubs are probably right behind them. The Pirates, they're more annoying. They're like it's like a little stepbrother. Except maybe we're the little stepbrother now. I don't know.
Oh no.
But the Brewers are just kind of there. They seem to do things the right way. They're in a similar market, similar financial situation to the Reds in a lot of ways, and they are kind of who we would love to be, at least in regards to how they're run. So, no, totally agree. If somebody's got to win it, I guess it might as well be them.
Well, that's sort of where I was going. They spend about the same amount of money as the Reds. That's the difference between a team that is well run versus a team that is just complete whatever show at the top levels. I mean, ownership and their front office there are smart. Reds obviously are foolish in every way at those top levels. And it's not the money. They don't spend any more than the Reds, and they're not spending like the Dodgers. So that's I think I'm jealous as part of it. The other part of it again is I actually know why. I've been to Milwaukee a couple of times. I think only twice, but man, that is a seriously underrated city. Have you been to Milwaukee, Nate?
One time, went and watched a Brewers game up there.
It is a seriously underrated city in every way. I mean, I really have had a good time every time I've been there. And the one time I got to go to a game at, I don't know, it's not Miller Park anymore. I don't know what it is. But it was a Brewers Cubs game. So I got to commiserate with a bunch of Brewers fans who really hate the Cubs. And so we had a common enemy. And so we shared a bond. The nicest, literally, that I've never met opposing fans nicer in my life. And then the Brewers games that I went to at Great American Ballpark before I started boycotting Great American Ballpark. No, I didn't boycott Great American Ballpark. I'm boycotting the Castellinis. But Brewers fans were always, I quit going to Cubs fans at Great American because they've just too many of them came out of the woodwork. But Brewers fans were always like nice. I remember one time walking into the stadium and Brewers fans were walking by. I was like, how come no one is tailgating before this baseball game? I was like, well, we don't really do that. And the game that I went to up there, man, they were out there tailgating before the baseball game. I don't know. I have a hard time. We spent way too much time talking about the Brewers here. This is us trying to avoid talking about the lousy state of the Reds. But if you want a team to root for in the National League, you can do worse than the Brewers.
I think you're onto something. It's less that you want the Brewers to win, as we collectively do not want Cardinals, Cubs, or Pittsburgh fans to be happy. I mean, Cardinals fans are the worst. Cubs fans are the second worst. I'll always be traumatized by the sea of blue that attends every Cubs Reds games in Cincinnati. And then Pirates baseball fans, whatever. I think have some similarities there with us, but Steelers fans do not have the best reputation nationwide. So as long as fans of those three cities are disappointed, it's a win for us. It's a win for America.
What somebody said in this. Right. That's what somebody said in our Riverfront Slack channel this week, was something to the effect of, Pirates fans have kind of been crapped on the way we have been, but they're mostly also Steelers fans. So, you can't muster up any sympathy for them. So, and again, that's patreon.com/riverfrontcincy if you want to get in on the Slack channel. We're having a good time. We really are actually having a good time, despite it's a great crew. It's a great group, and I enjoyed hanging out with them. But there are a few things that I wanted to, before we get into some of the viewer mail and some of the other news of the week. Lance McAllister, Lance is a host on WLW and ESPN 1530, and I'm a little upset with him because he's not actually asking me on in the last 12 months to come on his show ever.
Kind of rude, Lance. About it. Get it together.
I know James Rapine, if you all know James Rapine, big Bengals guy, he was actually in for Lance earlier this week, and I did go on and talk about the Reds, and I ended up complaining about the Castellinis. I tried to not do that, and I ended up doing it, but he was provoking me to do it. But James Rapine's a good guy. But anyway, Lance, said some interesting way to frame the discussion about where the Reds are and where they're going. And I want to read a few things that he's posted. And I can't believe we've now come to the segment of the podcast of things Lance McAllister posted. This is going to be a running gag here.
I'll delete it from the show notes.
Yes, please do. All right, here's the first one, because I think this is a really interesting way to think about things. It really does take some shrewd maneuvering to spend $125 million on an 83-win team last year, and then spend $117 million on a team that's on pace to lose 107 this season.
Oh wow! I hadn't looked at it like that.
They tried to save some money, and they did save a little bit of money, but their payroll last year was 125. It's 117 now. And think about the difference. What's the point? I mean,
I know that
$8 million is a lot of money to me, but that's an interesting way to think about it. And to completely take a team that was close to the playoffs and put them years away from the playoffs.
Yeah, if you are, I mean, we're not under any false pretenses here. We know that they're not making the bulk of their money from ticket sales. So you look at that $8 million gap, and you made all these moves in the offseason under the guise that, we have to align our payroll to our resources. And then you just crater the team. Nobody's showing up to the games. The $8 million is going to be a wash at the very, very least in ticket sales and concessions and merchandise and stuff. So it's baffling. I wish you hadn't told me that when I'm trying to keep it positive.
Our buddy Bill Lack actually texted that to me earlier today, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I hadn't thought about it." But they're barely saving any money on the payroll, and yet they've just completely cratered the organization for what? I don't like the Castellinis.
Breaking
news. I know, right? This is not the worst run franchise in sports, man, but it's in the inner circle. So here's what else Lance had to say that got me thinking. This isn't rock bottom. He said this after the loss last night. This isn't rock bottom. Wait until parts are traded off at the deadline. Wait until you realize that there will be 9 position players, 29 years of age and older, that will get at least 100 plate appearances this year that won't be around when or if the Reds ever win again. And our buddy Wick Terrell, he tweeted out the other day that the Reds have the 4th highest average age in their lineup. This is the youth movement the Reds are undergoing. What are we doing here?
People keep wanting to say, yeah, we got to get these guys at bats to up their trade value. Why do we want to keep giving at bats to Donovan Solanos of the world so that they can get us a 2-star relief prospect who's probably still in high A?
That's the thing. Even Brandon Drury, who's had a great season, is Brandon Drury really going to bring anything in trade? I mean, no. Maybe. I hope so. Although I like
a fringe prospect at best. The guy has just kind of been bad his whole career. Those guys with pedigree like that don't typically return a ton.
Right. And Kyle Farmer. Everybody loves Kyle Farmer, and I've seen some things here lately because he's been playing great. Maybe trade him for something, but other owners are able to, or other front offices are able to log on to Fangraphs. They're able to log on to Baseball Reference. Okay, it's.
Yeah, you see the argument to keep Barrero down because you want to give these guys reps to get them ready for the trade deadline. If you think that whatever package you're going to get for some of these, future former obscure Reds is more important than Jose Barrero's development at the major league level, then I got news for you. There's a reason you're behind, your phone keyboard. So is BlackBerry still a thing? People still have BlackBerries?
I wish. I missed the BlackBerry. My last BlackBerry, on the very last day I owned it, I literally threw it into the woods. I got really upset because the stupid thing was just anyway. I threw it into the woods, and my wife made me trudge over and collect it.
That's what the Castellinis and Nick Krall did to the Reds this offseason. Right into the woods.
Right, just chuck them. Tommy Pham, is he going to bring something? Maybe. I mean, Tommy Pham has been talented in parts of his career, but he's also alienated just about everyone. And I'm afraid his antics are going to depress his trade value as well. But I'm like you, keep hitting. Let's get something for him. All right. Again, the last time we'll ever mention Lance on this show, probably not. Although until he asks me back on his show, I'm probably not going to mention him again. But here's this one. And this is what I wanted to get you to comment on, Nate. So I probably should have sent this to you ahead of time so you could prepare some witty remarks, some pithy remarks. Reds ownership saved some money this year and erased Suarez's money for the future in attempting to square the books from COVID. But what they have lost in goodwill and trust with fans will cost them for years to come. It was a short-sighted calculation that will haunt for years to come. Do we think that? I'm not so sure about that one. I want to believe that because I've been leading the charge against the Castellans and the way they're doing it, and that people should boycott them. And the attendance has been not good, so maybe they're getting the message. But I'm just not sure that Reds fans this day and age, the ones that are still, kind of dialed in, have just decided they're going to forgive everything. I don't know. What do you think, Nate?
Well, you can't lose trust and goodwill if you never had trust and goodwill. I mean, it's not like they spent the last 2 decades, making all the right moves and leading us to expect sustained success. It's been the exact opposite of that. But at the same time, I think you're right. If they make a few good moves, and whether it's due to savvy business decisions or just the right people get hot at the right times and the Reds are good, the ballpark's going to fill back up. They're going to, have their little, everybody's going to give them their flowers, how they made all the right moves. People love to look at these trades that they made in the offseason and be like, oh, Winker's having a bad year. This is an awesome trade. Like, what? No. I don't get it. So, yeah, people will forget. No. They will forgive, and they will forget as soon as the Reds have a decent product.
It's true. I think that's true because we saw the Bengals. The Mike Brown was garbage forever, and all of a sudden, we have to kind of do we expect the Reds to start all of a sudden the Castellanis actually running a real major league organization? No, I don't. But I would have said the same thing about Mike Brown, and the Bengals have shown a real. I don't know. They're not the same Bengals from 4 years ago. They really
Can Joe Burrow play shortstop?
I'm wondering if Kyle Farmer could be Joe Burrow's backup quarterback. He was a high school quarterback.
QB1.
Did you know that Kyle Farmer played a quarterback in the major motion picture The Blind Side?
Is that true?
With Sandra Bullock? I'm just testing
Tim
whether
McGraw.
That's right. I'm just testing whether you read my Cincinnati Magazine column a couple of weeks ago about Kyle Farmer because I dropped that tidbit in. So you just exposed yourself, Nate.
I skipped that one because I wasn't going to read your propaganda. Supposed to be gaslight the Riverfront family. That's rude.
Yeah, there's no reason to. I want to believe that what Lance says, that this is going to haunt the Castellans until forever, but I don't know. I don't know.
The city's starved for a winner, so if they get one, they're gonna rally behind them in a big way. You will, I will, everybody that listens or watches this podcast. We're all gonna get excited, and we're gonna tune in every day. We tune in every day when they're an abomination.
Yeah,
because no matter how bad, it's true. And no matter how bad the Reds are, baseball is still the greatest sport there is.
Yeah. What I was going to say is I'm not going to the ballpark as long as the Castellans are there. I'm just done until Castellani sells. But, I enjoy things much more when the Reds are winning. And at this age of my life, I can't believe that it still actually has an effect on my mood when they win. Now, it doesn't bring me down when they lose anymore. I'm past that. I don't, whatever. When I was 14 years old and the Reds lost, I was like, the next day, at school, I'd be, my head down, wandering into the cafeteria, But I found this good middle ground where when they win, great. It's supposed to be fun. Baseball's supposed to be a diversion. When they lose, whatever. The Castellinis want to lose. They do not do anything to win. So why let it bother me? But I want them to win so I can be happier, I guess. My wife says I need to be happier.
There's going to be a lot of confused therapists being like, what's wrong with you? I don't feel things. How?
Right.
I'm a Reds fan. Oh, got it.
There you go. All right, quickly, let's run through some of the transactions this week if we could. You mentioned Donovan Solano. He was activated. Yahoo.
Yay. $4 million for that guy.
Nick Lodolo went on the 60-man injured list to make room for Donovan Solano, but it's not. That sounds worse than it is. Lodolo went out on a rehab start and looked pretty strong in his rehab start. So good for him.
How nervous did you get did you know going into it? I saw that headline, Nick Lodolo to the 60-day DL, just flashed by on Twitter or something. My heart sunk. I went and poured a bourbon. Quickly found out the truth, poured another one.
Right, there you go. Yeah, no, that's what I first thought. Oh, no, a setback for Lodolo. They moved him from the 15-day to the 60-day. But no, it was just a transaction to get Solano on. It's retroactive to way back. So Lodolo will be available when he's available.
There you go, though. You're a Reds fan looking for a reason to keep caring, keep tuning in. Lodolo comes back. There's, every 5 days we get to care about that.
It's worth watching. It's something worth watching. Absolutely. The other transaction news of the week, probably the worst news of the year so far. The most unexpectedly worst news. The Reds placed our guy, Alexis Diaz, on the injured list, 15-day injured list, bicep tendonitis. Before the season, none of us were clamoring for Alexis Diaz, but as it turns out, he is pretty good. And he's on the injured list now because we just can't have nice things.
Yeah, that one wasn't great. Encouraging signs I read. He was playing catch yesterday. I say with this biceps tendonitis, it can sometimes be a much more longer term injury, but this one, all signs are pointing towards him being back relatively soon. So please. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why I trust any Reds reliever, but I think maybe just because of who Diaz's brother is and the way he's looked so far this year, I'm like, yeah, we need this guy. I know he's just a rookie, but I'm loving that 2.40 ERA and all those strikeouts. I love that guy. But losing him, it really, really hurts us. Also, Dari Moreta, speaking of relievers, called up from AAA Louisville, and the Reds option TJ Friedel back to AAA. Friedel, he's getting some of those, I worry about Friedel going back and forth from Cincinnati to Louisville with the gas prices these days. It's probably, expenses are piling up. Hope he's charging those to Castellini.
There's that $8 million that they saved.
Right. It's on gas prices to get TJ Friedel back and forth from Louisville. What else? The Reds activated Max Schrock, which I guess is a thing that happened. Yeah, he has a fun name.
Yeah, I like to say his name. Yeah, Dari Moreta was just shoving down in AAA. It's looked amazing since he went down there. Had a 4.05 and a 1.8 whip. Pretty excited about the Dari Moreta era, round 2.
Well, the truth of the matter is we were kind of clamoring for the Reds to call up Moreta last year because he was unhittable last year. Maybe that's an example of, don't count any relievers ever.
He could be good.
No, he could be. He's still young, but yeah, you're right. This year has been a big step back for Dari Moreta. Before we do viewer mail, a couple of kind of big topics of the week I wanted to get into. And the first is what I will call the saga of Nick Senzel. Our first viewer mail question this week was about Nick Senzel. It comes from our friend James Urban. Again, these viewer mail questions come from our friends at patreon.com/RiverfrontCincy, where you too can support the show and get your dumb questions answered. And the dumber, the better, as far as I'm concerned. James Urban is not dumb. I didn't mean to insinuate that James was dumb, and his question's not dumb. Hey, guys, it's time to talk about it. Are we over Nick Senzel? I am tired of waiting. I think it's time to move on. Nate, I have a fractured relationship with this particular player, and so I'm going to let you say whatever you want to say first before I launch into my mea culpa.
It's kind of rude, but okay. Am I over him? The answer is no. The answer is no. It might not be no for a long time. I'm always going to hold out a little bit of hope. And when his career is over, if it ends the way it has begun, I will never get over that. That's going to be tough. This was a bright spot, a beacon of hope that Reds fans had for several years during a lot of times when there weren't many of those beacons to look for. But my goodness, I was on here not a couple weeks ago saying it looked like he was starting to get the barrel on the bat on the ball, that he was having good at bats and getting bad luck. So I spent some time trying to go through his baseball reference page and look for signs, look for something to give me hope. And man, it's not been good after his 2 for 4 day today, which maybe that's the thing, the spark that we needed. But he's got a line of 211, 267 on base, 257 slugging. Check that again. Slugging is below his on base, which is horrible. His ISO, his isolated power, is third worst in all of Major League Baseball. His wins above replacement have gone down every year. This year, he has a career low walk percentage, a career high strikeout percentage, a career low home run percentage. And I don't know. I guess he has options, so maybe you can try sending him down, but you're just going to mess with any ego, any pride that he has. There's going to be an effect there. It seems like the combination of whatever happened with that shoulder injury and the forced swing change, he just has never looked the same, and there's nothing really to point to give me much reason for hope. That said, look at the 9 position players they tried out there every day. He should keep getting at bats. Let's know once and for all.
That's the first thing I would say is in terms of the question of send him down or whatever. No, there's no one to replace him, and he's got to prove he can hit in the major leagues. And now's the time to prove that because they don't have anyone to replace him, and because what is he going to contribute to more losses? Whatever, who cares? Nick Senzel. I've always tried to be honest here that I am a little biased when it comes to Nick Senzel. And so I want you all, I've always tried to let you all know that that's there. He was very kind. He and his family were very kind to me when I wrote a piece for Cincinnati Magazine that was supposed to be the cover piece before some things happened. But at Cincinnati Magazine about Senzel, I'm still very proud of that piece. I think you should go try to read it if you haven't yet. And if you haven't yet, well, get out of here. What are you doing here? You're disloyal.
Weirdos.
Yeah, really. You're supposed to be my lab partner, but you're not. You're disloyal. Now, if anyone can tell me what movie reference that was from, you win. Tweet me at DotsonC and let me know. I'm not out on Senzel. I think all the reasons for optimism that we all had are still there. He was, there's a reason why he was a top draft pick. He's 27 now, which is old to have not really produced yet. But in the minor leagues, he produced at every level. He's that guy. Something's happened. I don't know what it is. The injuries. He's never been able to, have a long stretch to really figure it out. The swing change you talked about, the Reds kind of forced him into his swing change that completely. He was looking good there for a while and just went off the edge. I don't know what it is, but he is 27 and he has never yet produced for any extended amount of time in the big leagues. And so, I mean, again, like you said, it was 2 for 4 today, but he's hitting 211, 267 on base, 257 slugging. His weighted runs created plus is 45. If you don't know what weighted runs created plus is, you can go look it up if you want, but I'll just tell you 45 is just bad. It's just bad. He's been great defensively. So, I mean, it's not all awful, but the fact of the matter is we're looking now at how many plate appearances so far this year, 170 plate appearances, still technically a small sample size, but when you consider the fact that he's never really produced at the big league level. I don't know what to say. He's going to have to show me something, and I want the guy to do well. I'm rooting for him more than I've rooted for anyone else, and that's a kind of a personal thing here. Again, I'm trying to be completely transparent with everyone here, but he's just not produced, and at some point he has to. And I'll echo what I said, I think, last week, which is if he can stay healthy, he will have the best chance this year to prove himself. And this is the make or break year for Senzel. And so far it's been break. And I wish that he would make, just because it's a good thing for the Reds and a good thing for him. And I don't know. I've kind of rambled about it. I feel bad that I've misled you all these years about how great Senzel was, and he's never really delivered on it. But I still believe he can be that guy against all evidence to the contrary.
Well, if you are looking for something to point to give you a little bit of hope, why not look at everybody's favorite Cincinnati Red of the moment, Brandon Drury? Prospect with some pedigree, took years to kind of figure it out. And now over the last, roughly season and a couple flashes prior to this year, he stunk. And then he kind of figured it out. So you don't have to squint too hard to see comps for what this could look like. But you haven't seen him do any of it yet.
Yeah, like 3 or 4 years ago, I remember saying specifically, boy, I hope Nick Senzel turns into Brandon Drury. No, I did not say that.
If it turned into this season's Brandon Drury, it'd be okay.
That would be okay. I'm rooting for you, Nick. I really am rooting for you. But we got to see something. And I don't know. The stat line just has to start trending upward, and there's very little reason to be optimistic at this point, I fear.
But
there you go. We're going to be optimistic. The other kind of topic of the week that I want to briefly talk about here, because we've gone on longer than we should about a lot of these other nonsense topics.
The Brewers.
But it's the topic of my column at Cincinnati Magazine this week. Which Reds player is going to – did you read this one?
Yeah.
Hurry, we'll read it right now while I'm talking. Which Reds player is going to be the representative on the All-Star team this year? This is about this time every year, this week every year generally. Gosh, I've been writing, I think, for 9 years now for Cincinnati Magazine. And about this time every year is when I write this column about who's going to be. And the reason I write it, and I kind of, pitch it to my editor every year, is because I'm still a sucker for the All-Star game. I love the discussion around the All-Star game. I love, since I was a kid, I loved watching the lineups be announced and the rosters be announced before the game and getting kind of a chill. This is what a weird kid I was, but whenever the Reds were announced, I got the lineup because I got to see my Reds alongside the big stars of the game, and so I'm still a sucker for the All-Star game. And so every year I write this question: who is going to be the representative for the Cincinnati Reds? And maybe more than one, but thank goodness for the one. In this year's All-Star game. Now, I listed a number of candidates, and I'll ask you, since you claim to have read the piece, do you think the Reds will get more than one?
No.
Who will the one be?
I will let you talk about your choice here in a second. I think it's got plenty of merit, though I disagree with it. I think it has to be Brandon Drury right now. There is some room for a couple other players to potentially do some things over the next few weeks and overcome him. But he's top 10 in the National League in home runs. He leads the team with an OPS plus 121. Of the 5 Reds with an OPS plus over 100, only Kyle Farmer and Tommy Pham are healthy, and I don't think it's going to be them. I don't exactly see Tommy Pham get the player vote, if that's still a thing. Unless
he won't get Jock Peterson's vote, that's for sure.
I would have loved, and somebody we can talk a little bit more in a second, but Tyler Stevenson, I think, would have obviously the front runner, and still could, if he comes back and gets a few weeks of hot hitting in, get one of those spots. But I think it's Brandon Drury. I think it's reluctantly Brandon Drury. I don't know if the Reds have necessarily had an all-star on this team since Tyler Stevenson went down.
There you go. I was going to say, yeah, they have had an all-star. It was Tyler Stevenson, but of course the injuries. So here's how I will qualify what you just said. I think everything you just said was correct, but you said if it were right now, if we're picking right now, it would be Brandon Drury. Well, we're not picking right now. And so that's why I chose as my most likely contender, Luis Castillo. Luis Castillo is a pitcher for the Reds. He's a starting pitcher. And he was not great against, well, he was dominant against the Dodgers until the last inning that he was in. But the crux of my argument was he's been better than you realize since he returned from his injury at the beginning of the season. And he has a few more starts to kind of burnish his resume. So I think that by the time we get to when rosters are announced, Castillo is likely to be the top choice. The other guys
probably would have said that it was Luis Castillo if he would have had a shutdown performance against the Dodgers.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, it was a shutdown for a while, right?
Yeah.
The other guys I talked about, we'll just briefly run through those. Brandon Drury obviously was one that I talked about, and I made the comment in my column. If I'd pre-written the column before the season, I probably would have mentioned 1,000 different players before I mentioned Brandon Drury being the Reds All-Star representative. He was signed to a minor league contract in March, if you'll remember, right? And what that means is literally no team was willing to offer him a big league deal in March. And so now here we are in June, and he's potentially an all-star. And, you could say a deserving all-star. He's been really good so far. And so, and I did make the point in the column that if the roster was selected today, he has to be an odds-on favorite to make his first all-star team.
Apologies to Connor Overton. Just want to apologize to Connor Overton real quick.
Oh, man. Respect.
That spot was his.
Rest in peace, Connor Overton. Oh. Kyle Farmer has to be mentioned. He's literally been a top 5 shortstop with the bat in after his recent hot streak, but overall, his inconsistent glove work, his value's a little bit depressed. But I don't know. It'd be fun to watch him get rewarded with an all-star selection and then watch the Reds sign him to a 5-year contract. No,
it wouldn't. I would hate everything about. I mean, good for him. Be happy for him personally, but for the fact that I have to be on social media on occasion, I would hate that.
It'd be awful, even though it'd be great because he seems like a great guy. It seems like it'd be good for him. I mentioned Tommy Pham. Tommy Pham, if you get rid of those first 8 games where he didn't get a hit, he's been pretty darn good. But I think the only way he makes it is if, as I noted in my column, if before the home run derby, Major League Baseball decides to add, like a contest, slap your opponent or something like that, he might make it then. So you can get that. The only other here's what I think it'll come down to. Probably Castillo or Drury. Although if Drury hits like Drury did before this season for the rest of the, before the All-Star game, I don't know that either. I think Castillo I still think he's the best bet. But I actually also think that Tyler Stevenson, he was on the field throwing this week. He's maybe inching closer, getting back. I see a situation, and Wick and I talked about this last week, where Tyler Stevenson comes back, and he was maybe not selected initially, but there's always players that, are out for injury or can't play for whatever reason. I think he is a good option for maybe like an injury replacement. I'm going to say Castillo and Stevenson both make it. That's where I'm going to set my marker now.
The Reds are getting 2 players again. I can see them just agreeing not to give the Reds an all-star initially and then be like, well, somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's going to have to miss it. We'll give the Reds one of those guys, one of those spots.
Well, they have to have at least one. That's the rule. When's the last time the Reds – we think about the Reds have been awful, and we would laugh about how they're, only one – they're only going to get one. But when's the last time the Reds only had one all-star? It was 2009. When I looked that up, I was surprised that it was that long ago. The Reds have had more than one all-star every year since 2009. That year, Coco Cordero was the all-star representative. Did that surprise you that it's been that long? Because it seems like the Reds have been such garbage. You'd think they only get one.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I read it. I wonder if other teams have similar streaks. Is it fluky? Is it just something that most teams end up getting to somehow? I don't know. I don't love the All-Star game the way you do.
So many players are like, or so many, times the rosters people are injured and they end up having, 40 different people get named to the All-Star team. Well, 15 of them are injured, so.
Right.
All right, let's answer some viewer mail questions, shall we, Nate?
Let's do it.
First question that comes from our buddy. Again, these questions all come from our friends at patreon.com/riverfrontcincy, where you can, a couple bucks, you can join the crew. Joey Gaditza has the first question. His question is this: what's up, guys? Oh, that's not the entire question. Why are we Reds fans again? Oh, right, because we get to be excited about guys like Almora, Drury, and Solano. Oh boy, the work this organization needs to do once again to be competitive seems so daunting and far away. Sound about right? My response is yes, it sounds about right, but I don't know. I'm kind of enjoying Almora and Drury so far, but they're not going to be on the next good Reds team.
The amount of people that I have seen over the last 2 days say that, man, it sure would have been great to see Donovan Solano here in a Reds uniform all season long. And I think things could really be different right now.
I'm cheering for those guys.
Yeah.
I'm happy that Albert Almora Jr. has been, pretty good. I'm happy that Brandon Drury has been better than pretty good. That's good stuff. I hope Donovan Solano is great, but I don't know. How do you get invested in guys that are just not going to be around the next time the Reds are good? Those guys, I'm sorry, those guys are not going to be around. You can make a case for Almora keeping him around as a fourth or fifth outfielder. That's reasonable. Drury, maybe he's figured something out at this advanced age. He's all of 29 years old. Maybe he's figured something out. I hope so. He was the guy that came up to the big leagues early and so had some talent. But, Joey, we're trying to be positive and be happy today. And, yes, the work this organization needs to do to be competitive, it's a lot of work.
And we'll get into that a little bit more in a moment with another depressing question.
Yeah, why are you guys doing this? Usually our Patreon cruise tries to be optimistic and have a good time. Next question comes from our buddy Brian Bowdy. Brian asks, if 2022 Kyle Farmer got in a time machine and went to 1975, where would he bat in the Big Red Machine order? Surely he'd feast on 1970s pitching. You want to take this or do you want me to take it first?
I got a little something here. I wasn't going to go look at all of Major League Baseball in 1975, so I focused on a couple things. One, only Cesar Geronimo and Dave Concepcion had a worse OPS than Kyle Farmer right now, OPS plus. But I think Davy's Gold Glove at shortstop that season probably keeps him in the position. But where Mr. Farmer might have been extremely valuable are in Games 2 and Game 7 of the World Series when the Red Sox trotted out left-hander Bill Lee. Kyle Farmer, known lefty masher, could have had a massive impact in the World Series hitting against Bill Lee. So there you go.
There you go. Spaceman, Bill Lee. That's a good one. Yeah, Kyle Farmer never gets in the starting lineup for the Big Red Machine. Are you crazy? He's been really good for the last month and a half or however long it's been. And again, I don't have objections to Kyle Farmer, but he is probably, though, if he's on the Big Red Machine, he's in the role that he's best suited, which is super sub. And every time a left-handed pitcher gets on the mound, he's playing somewhere around the diamond. And yes, I'm literally saying here, Kyle Farmer could help the Big Red Machine. And maybe that's the title of this episode. I don't know, but you're right. He mashes lefties. He's not going to start over Dave Concepcion because that's just ludicrous. But Kyle Farmer could have been a valuable member of the Big Red Machine.
I want somebody to aggregate that. Yes, Kyle Farmer would have helped the Big Red Machine. Put it out there. Cut it and clip it. Let's go.
Yeah, 49 minutes in. I got to remember to clip that one, and we'll push that out. Yeah, but he's not starting over Dave Concepcion.
Nope.
Next question comes from our buddy Kyle Kapler. Kyle, I love you. I promise I do, but you're harshing our mellow. Time to be critical, he says. I'm kind of tired of people talking about the young core of this franchise. They have 2 ascending position players and a few promising young starting pitchers, and that's it. And besides Ellie De La Cruz, who is doing well in the minors on the position side? What young core is there? They're 3 or 4 years out at least. Listen, I'm sick of you, Kyle, trying to speak truth. Okay, quit it. We're trying to delude ourselves into believing that. No, I do think there are real, you say 2 ascending position players, but then you say besides Ellie De La Cruz, who's doing well in minors on the position side. So who's the second one? Maybe Barrero. I still am on the Matt McClain train. I think he can be a real player. Ellie De La Cruz is amazing. You're not wrong. It's not like they have a superstar in waiting at every position, and I don't even know if they're going to end up being good enough to be a quote unquote young core because we just don't know yet. But that's the one area where I think there is reason for optimism because there are some guys that have a profile that they could be real contributors on the big league level, and then you have to build around them, and hope that the Cassians will build around them. Nate, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the problem here is that people try to use some of these prospects as a justification for what the Reds are going through right now. So we had Tyler Stevenson, who is a bona fide superstar. If he stays healthy, he has a reasonable chance of being the best catcher in Major League Baseball.
True.
That's not hyperbole. Jonathan India, who we are all in love with, we think he's great. Now, would I, bet my mortgage that he's going to make 3 or 4 all-star teams? Not necessarily. But if he just stays as good as he is right now, we're going to be pretty happy with that. But
right, and he's not a prospect, but he's still just 25. So
yeah,
that's the future.
After that, if you go down to Louisville, the only person that you have reason to be optimistic about is Jose Barrero. And Bird Tenowitz, because, big Bird fans on the riverfront. You go down to Chattanooga, and you have Matt McClain, and really nobody else. So you're putting all of this, this faith and excitement, this justification for the moves of the offseason and the direction of the franchise. And you're going to rely on people that are in high A, double A, or not even double A, high A and low A. Like, there's a lot of space between there and the big league ball club. So I get what Kyle's saying. You can't talk about the young core, because if you're really only talking about Tyler Stevenson and Jonathan India, because they're the only 2 that have had any success at the major league level, or close to doing.
Wow, you've made a pretty good case for Kyle's argument there, and I don't like it. It's true. I think maybe the thing with prospects is always we're projecting a lot when it comes to them, and I've kind of, maybe because I'm trying to find reasons to be optimistic, reasons to be excited. They've got Stevenson, India, Green, Lodolo, and Ashcraft.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good. Yeah, that's a pretty good group. That's 5 players. For years on this show, and no one has listened to the show for all the way back to 2007. Because if you have, no, you're insane. And anybody that started listening back then has drifted away before now. But I've always said, until they show me something in AA or AAA, I don't care. Trade them all. So many top prospects just flame out. Just trade them all. I think the Reds should trade every minor league prospect they have and try to get somebody that can produce on the big league level, because they flame out. We just talked about Nick Senzel.
That's what
what's that trade Nick Senzel? They could have gotten some real value for him, and that could have turned the team. Anyway, I don't know. Barrero, we don't know. Barrero shows all the markers of being a really good big league player. He's not done it in the big leagues yet. We don't know. And Hunter Green's the one guy in recent times I would have said, I did say publicly that they should consider trading him, because who knows if he's going to blow his arm out. And then, he called me out, and then he did blow his arm out. So, and then he proved me wrong by coming back to be great. So, but the rest of them, I don't know. Doggone it. Nate, you and Kyle talked me into it. The future is bleak.
I had to start looking into this. And I'm like, oh, goodness. Our offense has no signs of hope. Except for, Ellie De La Cruz could be in AAA by the end of the season. That wouldn't surprise me. He is mashing down there. There's a couple other fellas named the big Tortuga. There's a couple hefty boys, some thick boys down in high A and low A.
I like the big boys.
I'm saying, get them up here. Let's have some fun. Bring up old Bird Tenowitz. Let's make this the most fun team, if not the best.
I will say this: the Reds have a guy in Ellie De La Cruz. He does have his plate discipline has to get better. He's got to walk more, but that's the one guy that I think could be like a superstar. I genuinely believe and I'm not going to predict that he is going to be because he does have some work to do in his game, but he does so many other things well and just has that light tower power. And just
if you want to get excited about Ellie De La Cruz, go watch some Pittsburgh games and watch O'Neal Cruz. You want to see what a super tall shortstop that can mash looks like?
Yeah,
5 tools across the board. There's your comp.
That's the other thing. If he can stick it, if Ellie De La Cruz, by the way, just an incredible name, just Inner Circle Hall of Fame name, Ellie De La Cruz. If he can stick it shortstop defensively, I love that guy, and I'm pinning a lot of hopes on him. So, anyway, yeah, the Reds suck, and they're going to suck going for a long time. By the way, come and watch the Reds every week and give us your money every week. The truth is, if you're a hopeless Reds fan, there's no better family to be a part of because we can commiserate together. Misery loves company.
Mm-hmm.
All right, last two more questions, actually. No, we have 3 more questions. Good grief. I don't even know how to read. Let's go to Joe Farsing. Joe asks, who's on your all MLB team right now? Your all MLB team right now. So let's try to run through this as quickly as possible if we can, Nate.
Sure. You want to go alternate every other one?
What's that?
Go ahead.
You're gonna say we'll alternate positions. Okay, that's good. But is Nick Senzel your leadoff hitter?
Obviously.
All right, catcher.
Number one in my heart.
I'll go with catcher first. My catcher is Wilson Contreras. I hate it. He's a Cub, but he's been really good this year. So that's my catcher, Wilson Contreras. Now, you want first base?
I have the same first base. Another person I hate to put on here, but Paul Goldschmidt has been otherworldly.
I liked Paul Goldschmidt before he joined the Cardinals.
Wrong uniform.
Exactly. Second base, I'm going to specifically not say who I probably should be. Tommy Edman for St. Louis has been amazing so far this year. So I'm going to go with I'll go back and forth. I wanted to say Jeff McNeil, who's having a great season for the Mets, but I'm going with, just because I love his name, Jazz Chisholm Jr. for the Marlins. Jazz Chisholm Jr. has been mashing the baseball, 14 home runs. That's who I'm going with at second base. I'll give you want short or third?
I'll go with third. Young Jose Ramirez.
Oh gosh, I love that guy.
Gosh, he's so much fun to watch. He can race.
Shortstop, I'm going to go with Dansby Swanson.
Ooh, did not see that coming.
Yeah, he's been really hot lately. I thought about Xander Bogaerts, or Trey Turner, but Dansby Swanson has actually been hitting this year. He's already a great fielder, and he's actually been hitting and lots of homers lately. Dansby Swanson also, although I hate the guy, I despise Dansby Swanson with every fiber of my being because he was on a Vanderbilt team that defeated the University of Virginia Cavaliers in the College World Series finals the year before Virginia won. But I'm going Dansby Swanson is short. All right, you got left?
Yeah, sure. Left, I got Yordan Alvarez. Yeah.
Yeah, that guy's great.
Just go look at his stat line. It's disgusting.
Let's talk about center and right field. Center field and right field. I think, are only 2 players.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So are we agreed those 2 players are Dalton Varsho and Harrison Bader?
Hey, I think that there is an argument for Dalton Varsho just because how ridiculous is it that the guy is also a catcher?
That's a good point. Good point. Respect
novelty points.
Mike Yastrzemski.
Oh,
his grandfather was good. So Mike Trout, obviously. Mike Trout. And who else?
Aaron Judge.
My goodness, Aaron Judge is amazing.
Dude. Don't let these guys get to the contract years. Contract year Dansby, contract year Judge. These guys are out to prove something, trying to get that bag. But, yeah, Trout and Judge are – how's Trout still doing it? every season of his career, he's been awesome.
He is he's the best player in the history of Major League Baseball. Nobody wants to say that because it's always recency bias and, it's because the guy we saw. But I'm telling you, I think if he could stay healthy, that's a big thing. But that guy is probably the best player in the history of baseball. And so on those nights when you finish watching the Reds lose to somebody and you have MLB TV and you can kind of log on and watch the Angels game on the West Coast, do it, man, because Mike Trout he's special. So one of his teammates might be our starting pitcher / DH, right?
Ooh, I do not have him in either position and was kind of disappointed in myself for not finding a role for him. For starting pitcher, I went with Sandy Alcantara.
Yeah. Second Marlin mentioned tonight.
He's already thrown 100 innings and just his stats across the board are top 2 or 3 in pretty much everything you could hope for.
Yeah, he's been great. Zach Wheeler's also been great for the Phillies, a guy that I thought the Reds, or I hoped the Reds would try to sign a couple years ago.
The entire Yankees starting pitching staff has been incredible.
Absolutely. We'll talk more about the Yankees in a moment, I think. But here's my guy. It's a Toronto Blue Jays starting pitcher. Mm-hmm. Also, a former Cincinnati Red. Yay. Kevin Gausman. He leads MLB starting pitchers in wins above replacement. Mm-hmm. The Reds had him and let him walk. They let him walk, and he's been fantastic ever since. He was a Red, right? I'm not, I'm not having some kind of like flashback from something that didn't happen. Sometimes that happens.
If you can hit your head and make yourself remember better moments as Reds fans, like show me where that tree stump is, I will trip on it any day of the week.
I hate the Cincinnati Reds. Okay, we need to pull this one out and post it on our social channels. I hate the Cincinnati Reds for what they do to me. All right. Do we want to say a relief pitcher? What do you think? Do we want to go there?
I didn't look at any relief pitchers, but if you do, it's got to be Josh Hader, right?
No, it's obviously Alexis Diaz.
Jeffrey Hoffman.
That's who it is. Yeah. The Jeffrey Hoffman.
Obviously.
Or maybe Edwin Diaz. He's been pretty good. I like that name. Now we're going with Jeffrey Hoffman as our reliever. So,
did you have a question? DH?
DH. Who's your DH? Yeah, my DH is Shohei Ohtani.
I went with Bryce Harper.
Who?
That guy with the hair.
I don't know that guy. Who's he play for? Oh, he's a national, right? Is he a national?
He's buddies with Nick Castellanos. They don't share an outfield because Bryce Harper can't play the outfield.
He's good at baseball, though. He can hit a baseball. Bryce Harper. No, I'm going Shohei just because I want to have him I can let him pitch too. All right, good question, Joe Farsing. Finally, Joe Farsing asked a good question on Viewer Mail. 2 more. Let's run through them as quick as we can. Calvin Medcalf, our buddy from the United Kingdom. With the Red season long over. Wait a minute. Come on. It's not over yet. We got a chance. I'm curious to see who you guys will be rooting for to win the ALCS and NLCS, as well as which team you hope wins it all. Nate, who are you pulling for here?
If I was voting with my heart, I think that I would say a Padres Blue Jays World Series could be fun. I don't dislike either of those teams. Get to watch our buddy Carlos tweet like a madman. Maybe Joey Votto gets traded to Toronto and he's playing in that series. I don't know. But I think a Subway Series would be awfully fun. I would tune into more games for a Subway Series. And I think they're probably the 2 best teams.
Yeah, if we're talking about just teams that look like they have a chance, the truth is, I might cheer for Cleveland just so they can have another Ohio team embarrass the Castellinis. Cleveland has spent less money but they're better run, and so they're tied for first place right now with the Twinsies. But no, I don't love Cleveland. In the American League, I hate to do this, but because everyone gets mad at me every time I mention this, but I don't hate the Yankees as much as I'm supposed to hate the Yankees. I just don't. I love Aaron Judge because, Judge, right? For those of you that know anything about my personal professional history,
Spent a lot of time in
Judge. And, I'm kind of pulling. I'm sorry. I know everybody gets mad when I say this. I'm pulling for the Yankees. I don't want to see a Subway Series, though, because I don't care about the Mets.
Come on. Buck Showalter is a blast.
He is, but it's the Mets. Maybe I'm just still
your daddy's Mets. This is a new Mets.
And they don't play in that dump that I went to called Shea Stadium anymore. So maybe that's something. But probably the National League, I'm actually probably pulling for the Brewers to pull something off just because of what we talked about earlier. Yes, this is a Brewers podcast. So Brewers, Yankees, and Yankees in 4. Sorry. I don't hate the Yankees. I know I'm supposed to, but I don't hate them.
My college roommate was a Yankees fan, and he was the only other serious baseball fan that I ran with. So he just sort of instilled a love for the Jabba Chamberlain era Yankees.
The Jabba Chamberlain era Yankees.
In me as well. So I'm with you. I don't hate the Yankees as much as I want the Reds to be the Yankees.
Yeah, I've just had so many good times hanging out in New York City over the years that I don't know. And at Yankee Stadium, old and new Yankee Stadium. I don't know. I'm sorry. I know we're supposed to hate them, but they try to win every year. And I know they have some advantages over the Reds. There's no question, but still, they try to win every year. And what's that like?
Go take a look at Nestor Cortez if you want to try to root for him, because that guy's impossible not to root for. That mustache.
Yeah. I absolutely approve of any insane mustaches. All right, Nate, we probably need to stick a pin in this one. Do you have any final thoughts for us? Oh, no, wait, we have one more question. I'm sorry. I forgot.
Leave Rich out of this. Terrible.
No,
this is the treatment you get for joining patreon.com/riverfrontcincy.
Exactly. We forget you. Rich, you're my favorite. But last question. Let's quickly. And we can get to this one quickly. As of right now, who's been your most pleasant surprise on the Reds roster? And conversely, who's been your biggest disappointment? I think this is, to me, it's pretty easy both ways. I'm going to go my biggest surprise, most pleasant surprise, as Rich put it, is Brandon Drury. I think it obviously is Brandon Drury. Biggest, because he's been amazing. The biggest disappointment, it's got to be, again, we've already talked about all this. It's Nick Senzel to me. Nate, do you disagree on either of those?
I had the same. Hunter Strickland, had big high hopes for Hunter going into this year, so he's been a bit of a letdown. The other one, I kind of hate to mention it because I know we're leaving soon, but Joseph Daniel Votto has
say it, yeah.
It's no, I won't say it's disappointing because he can never disappoint me, but I've been sad.
Yeah, I thought about that one. Although I still have high hopes for Votto. He's shown plenty of signs of being good the rest of the way.
Sure.
And he did a great TikTok with some girl that showed up at the game last week, which that stuff. I love that stuff. I don't know. I'm a sucker for it. But, yeah, you have to say it's disappointing, even though he's, 48 years old or whatever he is. And you shouldn't expect that. But it's Joey Votto, so we do expect things. And I don't know. I wrote a features piece for the magazine about Nick Senzel, and then he struggled since then. I wrote a feature piece for the magazine over the offseason about Joey Votto being the greatest Red ever, and he's kind of let me down a little bit. It's probably my fault, is what I'm saying.
There are plenty of signs pointing to just that.
Nate, final thoughts about this current stretch of Reds games and why we should even be interested.
Because a bad day watching a baseball game is still better than just about any other day. It can only get better from here, and we're all in this together.
Yeah, that misery loves company. You have us to commiserate with, and I don't know. They're bad, but there's something fun about just being part of this community that is sticking with this team.
Yeah. Everybody always says you got to take life one day at a time. So when I wake up, the Reds are undefeated.
That's right. They got a chance to win tomorrow. Do they have a chance to win tomorrow, Nate? At San Francisco?
Friday?
At San Francisco?
A chance
across the country?
They could just slap it out of the park.
There you go. The Reds will win tomorrow. All right, listen, this is The Riverfront, episode number 430. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a good time here every week. You can find us at youtube.com/riverfrontcincy every single week. Give us a like, smash that subscribe button. I'm not kidding, smash it. That's actually been kind of gratifying. You guys keep subscribing, the numbers keep going up, even though the Reds are playing bad. And so thank you for that. Go and do that. If you like us, talk about us. Tell your friends to go smash that subscribe button. If you don't like us, keep your mouth shut. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook at Riverfront Cincy. Give us a follow. You know what? It doesn't cost you anything. Now, patreon.com/Riverfront Cincy does cost you a little bit, not much, but you get to join the family. And man, that's fun. Nate, this was a good time, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having me on once again. It's always great talking about Cincinnati Reds, the BlackBerry of Major League Baseball teams.
For Nate Dotson, and I'm really sorry, Nick Senzel, this is Chad Dotson saying, so long, everyone.